This is the Gerry Callahan Show.
Well, it's almost Thanksgiving, which is everybody's favorite holiday. Everyone loves Thanksgiving. It's not religious necessarily. It's not political. Well, hopefully it's not. It's a great day, and it's a great day to give thanks. And I think this year, we all know what we're giving thanks for. I mean, that's an easy one. That is a real easy one. We're giving thanks to God in heaven that we dodged a bullet. We didn't just dodge a bullet. We dodged an attack-em. We dodged an intercontinental ballistic missile. We dodged a nuke. It is wonderful to know, to look forward to Donald Trump and the Trump administration taking office on January 20th. We are still a little nervous about what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will do in the next 54 days. But I tell you what, there's nothing more frightening than the idea, than the thought that the possibility that Kamala Harris could have won, could have been our next president. She got 74 million votes. She got the third most votes of any presidential candidate ever. She lost by about 2% nationally, which means almost half the country wanted 4 more years of this. That will never not be mind-boggling to me. It'll never not be a little unnerving, a little disturbing that almost half the country wanted 4 more years of an open border. They wanted 4 more years of endless war. They wanted another 250 billion taxpayer dollars sent to Ukraine. That's what half the country wanted. They wanted 4 more years of a woke military, of DEI, of trans madness taught in schools. They wanted 4 more years of the kind of diplomacy you got from Tony Blinken, the kind of Defense Department you got from Lloyd Austin. They wanted 4 more years of Rachel Levine in HHS. There will be debates around the Thanksgiving table, and I know a lot of people say you should avoid those, but why? I mean, I think they're fun. You know why? Because they can't handle it. The people on my side, on your side, if you're a Trump supporter, they're fine with it. I'm fine with it even when Trump lost 4 years ago. I don't run away. I don't throw a tantrum and say, I'm sick of listening to you. That only works one way. It's just like censorship. It only works one way, like cancel culture. Only one side can't handle it, especially this year, because they lost, we won, and everything is heading in the right direction. That's the thing we can be thankful for. And I think since November 5th, 3 weeks and a day, 22 days now, I think it's become even more apparent, even more obvious that we were close to a truly disastrous regime. Another 4 years of Kamala Harris, another 4 years of these America Last policies of prioritizing illegal aliens over American citizens, of prioritizing Ukraine over America. That almost happened. This person, Kamala Harris, almost became our 47th president. I think historians will look back and say, really? That really almost happened? That person really almost became the commander-in-chief? How did that happen? How did that almost happen? She ran for 107 days. She squandered $1.3 billion. She never really did a legitimate interview. She never really was exposed to the public. And fortunately, it backfired. Now they're doing the autopsies and saying, maybe if she just did Joe Rogan, maybe that would have changed things. I got news for you. She couldn't do Joe Rogan. She can't do Joe Rogan. She can't do 3 hours with anybody. She couldn't sit down for 3 hours with Dougie. She's just not capable. She's not capable of doing a real interview. She has never done a real press conference. She only made it through the one debate because the moderators were in the tank for her, because the debate was rigged for her. That's just a fact. You Democrats, you anointed the worst candidate in American history. And I'm not taking anything away from Trump. He ran a good campaign. He is the greatest comeback story in American political history. He was remarkably resilient. Dana White, who traveled with Trump on the final days of the campaign, said, he observed this, he knows this. He said Trump went 72 hours without sleep. 72 hours for a 78-year-old man. That is a one-of-a-kind presidential candidate, and so is this. Yesterday, Kamala Harris, finally back from her Hawaiian vacation, finally made a statement, released a video for her supporters. And I think somebody is sabotaging her. This was 2 days after Politico ran a story saying Kamala was thinking about running again in 2028. She could run for governor, but she's got higher aspirations. She loves aspirations and dreams. And her aspirations were to run again for the presidency of the United States. Now, we all know, whether you're like her or don't, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, doesn't matter. We all know she can't do that. We know she's incapable. We know she's run for president twice and still not received a single primary vote. Never won a delegate, never won a vote. That is this candidate who is thinking about running again in 2028. All I can say is every Republican I know says, go for it. You go, girl. And every Democrat says, please, God, no, we can't do this. I mean, they don't have to worry about it, because if she were to enter the primary and run against, 12, 14, 15 other candidates, the voters would reject her once again, just like they did in 2019. They don't want her as a candidate. They know she's not a good candidate. In fact, they know she's the worst candidate we have ever seen. Again, taking nothing away from Trump, he ran against the worst candidate we've ever seen. Now, she had some advantages. She had the media in her pocket. Almost 100% of the stories that the mainstream media did were positive, and about 75, 80% of the stories they did on Trump were negative. So she had the support of the media, support of the debate moderators. She had all the usual institutions, Hollywood, all the big stars, music stars. She had all the academics, the universities. She had support from all the Trump haters, and there are millions of Trump haters, supported her, propped her up, pretended she was the real deal when they knew in their hearts she was not. And they know in their hearts today that she was a terrible vice president, and she would have been a terrible president. She would have been the worst president. She would have been just an empty vessel who was controlled by dark forces in the shadows. I don't know if it would have been Obama or whoever, Susan Rice. Somebody would have been pulling the strings, and it would have been more of the same. I just made a list. Those are just some of the things. If we had somehow screwed up and elected her day one, they would have begun the effort to shut down X, Twitter, and stop Elon Musk from allowing people to speak freely. She would have spent another $7 trillion in her first year, which would have driven up inflation. She would have left the border open, of course, and we would have more Laken Rileys and Rachel Marins and Jocelyn Nungaray. She would have continued to shovel money to Zelensky to keep the war going. Maybe she would have followed through with Biden's plan to send them nuclear weapons. Hey, what could go wrong? We would have continued to mutilate and castrate children, allow men in women's sports. The FBI, the DOJ would have continued to go after her political enemies. They would have, the January 6ers would remain in the DC gulag. They would have continued to go after pro-lifers and Catholics and parents at school board meetings, and they would have continued to pressure all the social media platforms to do their bidding. it would have been a nightmare. Thank you, God, on this Thanksgiving that we dodged this bullet, that we dodged this howitzer. And I think I never felt better, more thankful, more relieved than yesterday when she released this video. And again, I'm not sure someone isn't trying to sabotage her to stop her from any thoughts she may have from running again. Because this is hard to believe. This is planned, obviously, scripted like everything she did. There's nothing spontaneous. There's nothing honest about this. And this is the best they could do. Now, I know a lot of people are accusing her of being a little tipsy when she did this. It's kind of a thing on social media that she is, half a box of wine in. She's halfway into a box of wine before she did this. And normally I'd say, you don't know that. I haven't really jumped all in on that, but you can't help but thinking when you see this video. It feels like a dash cam video for a DUI stop. That's what this feels like. And on top of that, there's nothing fresh. There's nothing new. There's nothing creative. She sounds like the same empty, hackneyed, hollow, vapid vessel. And I think this was a message to Republicans out there. Just be grateful, be thankful. This is what we avoided. We got a couple of clips. It's I think 16, 18 minutes long, and it is as cringy as anything she's ever done. And by the way, her running mate, Tinkerbell Tim, he did a video too, and he is just as cringy as he's ever been. And you can't help but wonder, why did she pick him? I mean, thank God she did. Maybe that Jewish guy from Pennsylvania would have helped her, would have won Pennsylvania, might have won the election. Thankfully, there's a real deep, dark strain of anti-Semitism in the Democrat Party. So they didn't go with Josh Shapiro. They went with the twink from Minnesota, and he was a disaster. And he's still a disaster, and they'll never recover. And historians will say it was the worst ticket ever. And thank God for that. Let's listen to Kamala. By the way, this is 17 days. No, she cut this video, I think, 20 days after the election. Can you imagine what she looked and sounded like, the day after, 2 days, 5 days when she was in Hawaii? This is after, cleaning up, hair, makeup, take a glass of water and lick your lips and look into the camera. And this is how disheveled she looked after the makeup. I can't. The thought, poor Dougie. I never thought I'd say it. Poor Dougie had to spend a week in Hawaii with this just.
Maybe she looks like that because he was berating her for 2 weeks.
I'm starting to think it's the other way around. I'm going to think she might be abusing him because she is scary. Here she is yesterday speaking, consoling her supporters after this just monumental, epic defeat. Good.
I just have to remind you, don't you ever let anybody take your power from you. You have the same power that you did before November 5th.
No.
And you have the same purpose that you did. And you have the same ability to engage and inspire. So don't ever let anybody or any circumstance take your power from you.
What the hell does that even mean? I mean, normally she says, don't let them take your joy. I think they knew that wouldn't work.
Yeah, America, I really love you guys.
Good one, Ironhead. That's what it feels like. You know what we used to call this day, the night before Thanksgiving, was drinking day, drinking night. This is the biggest drunk night of all. When you're young in high school, you get back to college and everyone comes home and gets together and goes to a party or a bar. Everyone overindulges. That's what it feels like, that you just saw your friend for the first time in a year or 6 months, and everyone gets overserved and they start doing that thing where I love you, man. I really miss you.
Look at this. This looks like a drunk mug shot. This still shot right here.
This is after she cleaned up. I can't even. A week ago, 10 days ago, in Hawaii on vacation with just she and Dougie. Man, she must have been like just an absolute just rubber-legged for a week. But here's Kamala, and this is bizarre. I'm telling you, I know that her handlers are all bailed on her, all the DNC people and the Obama people that bailed they're all, chopping her legs off from under her now and blaming her for this and that, and they should. She was a terrible candidate. And they're actually saying that she didn't avoid the media. That's what her Jennifer O'Malley, her campaign manager, who used to hate her and then was then became her campaign manager, said she didn't avoid interviews. She went more than a month without doing an interview, and her whole campaign was only 107 days. Of course, she avoided interviews, and she didn't just avoid Joe Rogan. Time magazine put her on the cover, and she wouldn't do an interview with them. They were there to glorify, to deify her, and she wouldn't talk to them. That was their strategy for a month. It was backfiring, and they knew it. So they suddenly started putting her on The View and Colbert, and every interview she did was worse than the last, and was a disaster. And the Brett Baer thing was a disaster, obviously, because he asked real questions. It was 22 minutes long. And in the middle of it, her handlers were waving to Brett Baer and saying, "End this, stop this." Of course, she didn't do real interviews because she can't. But perhaps the thing people will remember most when we go forward, like the next campaign, people will look back and ask, what's the best way to spend money, to spend your donors' money? She raised $1.5 billion in 107 days, which is remarkable. But there's a flip side to that. She lost, and she didn't spend it wisely. We know that now. They spent $10 million on Beyonce, 2.5 on Oprah, 1.8 on Eminem. We still don't know what Springsteen got, but I'd love to know.
How much on booze?
I wonder if we'll find that out. A lot. Although, if she's really a box wine person, a black box, that's like $20. So probably only a couple million.
Hey, that's not bad wine, actually.
No, it's not. I was told by a really prominent wine connoisseur, a guy who works for a big liquor company and travels to Italy and goes to all these vineyards. He said black box is great. It stays fresh. He said, don't be ashamed. Go for the box wine. Anyway, I think she talked to the same guy.
I think she might have, yeah.
Anyway, they spent $100,000 on a set for Call Her Daddy, just to renovate her set to make it look good. She could have done Rogan for free, and she didn't. And again, I'll defend her. She's too dumb to do Rogan for 3 hours. In her defense, she's not mentally capable of doing Rogan. If she did it, we'd be talking today about what a disaster it was. I have no doubt. But here she is bragging about wasting $1.5 billion. Who told her this was a good idea? Go ahead.
It was personal for you. And you gave all that you could to support our campaign.
You really
Because of your efforts, get this, we raised an historic $1.4 billion, almost $1.5 billion from grassroots supporters alone, the most in presidential campaign history. Nearly 8 million donors contributed an average donation of about $56 to fuel our people-powered campaign. And understand that the work that we did included the work that so many of you here did, which is to talk to first-time voters. Many of you are first-time voters. And to talk about...
I feel like she's like 2 seconds away from looking at the camera going, do you know who I am?
Trump won first-time voters, I believe, just like he won most demographics. But she is bragging that she lost. She lost every swing state. Every state, 49 states out of 50, every state but one, Trump increased his numbers. He increased his numbers in virtually every demographic, including young people, first-time voters. And she's bragging that she spent, I think, more than twice as much as he did and lost. That she spent more than she raised. She's 20 million in debt. In fact, they sent out an email. It's called the Harris Fight Fund, and they're looking to raise money to pay off the debt. She has debt. This woman wanted to be the president. In other words, a person who wasted $1.5 billion in 107 days wanted to be the one, in charge of the federal government, in charge of the $7 trillion budget. Man, did we dodge a bullet. Man, did we get lucky in this one. Thank God. That's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say around the dinner table. I get some Democrat, some relatives. I wonder if they'll mind if I say grace. Thank you, God, for thank you, God, for the Democrats who anointed the worst candidate in American history. Thank you for allowing us to avoid the disaster that would have been this woman and the creepy weirdo from Minnesota for 4 years. All of the things that we're going to see unfold beginning January 20th wouldn't happen. Would have been more of the same. More war, more spending, more crime, more illegal aliens, more everything, more disaster. God, we are lucky. We should all be thankful. Everybody, every American, all 340 million Americans should be thankful for this person. Man, the memes are killing it today. The memes are killing it. All right, I'm going to get to more of the things that we avoided, that we were spared. There's just so many of them. We got the new director of the NIH, National Institute for Health, and it is perfect. Another great choice by Trump. I'm telling you, I am going to be shocked. If maybe it's be tomorrow, it would be the perfect time. Donald Trump, I'm convinced, is going to name Liz Warren the head of the Bureau of Indian Affairs. He has to. That would be the greatest troll ever. He should put out a release on True Social and say, and do it just like at any other nomination. I'm proud to announce that this is my choice for the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Pocahontas. That has to happen. Oh, we'll get to the latest on Liz Warren. Boy, she is just a scoundrel. There's another thing to be thankful for, that she is an irrelevant backbencher, that she's in the minority. She's a 75-year-old bitter old lady, and we're going to tell you what she's been up to. It is scary. We'll get to that and more, but first.
Excuse me.
Want a better way to simplify finance operations for your business across expenses, vendor payments, and accounting? If so, Ramp could be a complete game changer. Ramp is the corporate card and spend management software designed to help you save time and put money back in your pocket. Ramp's accounting software automatically collects receipts and categorizes your expenses in real time so you don't have to. You'll never have to chase down a receipt again, and your employees will no longer spend hours submitting expense reports. Businesses that use Ramp save an average of 5% the first year, and Ramp is easy to use. Get started, issue virtual and physical cards, and start making payments in less than 15 minutes, whether you have 5 employees or 5,000. And now you can get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/Gerry. That's RAMP.com/Gerry. Cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Terms and conditions apply. Again, get $250 when you join Ramp. Go to ramp.com/Gerry. All right, it's Thanksgiving Eve drinking night to college kids coming home, and to Kamala Harris, the defeated, demoralized, destroyed Democrat candidate. I wonder what she'll be drinking for dinner tomorrow. We should talk about that. Do you like mashed potatoes or stuffing? What's your favorite dessert? Apple pie or pumpkin pie? Give us a call at 888. God, I hate those shows. I can't tell you how much I hate it. I don't listen to much, traditional talk radio anymore, but I used to hate it. Like the day before Thanksgiving, you tune into one of your favorite shows and they're talking about pumpkin pie.
You just get a 2-second phone call. It's like, yeah, Jerry, I really like green bean casserole. Thanks.
I put garlic salt in my potatoes. They're really good. You got to Deep fry the turkey. That's the key. Deep fry the turkey. Thanks for the call. You're next. What do you like to whipped cream or ice cream, vanilla ice cream on your pie?
I think Cool Whip makes a big difference, Jerry.
Cool Whip, yeah. No, I make my own whipped cream. I love those people who brag. I spent 17 hours in the kitchen making my own stewed vegetables or something. God, I don't care. I don't want to talk about food. I want to talk about politics. I'm going full Alex Jones this year. I'm showing up and saying, thank God that Dr. Fauci lost this one. Thank God that Rachel Levine is out on his ass. Does he get to keep the uniform? Does he get to still pretend that he's an admiral? Don't let these things slip by. I know we focus on the big guy, Trump and Kamala, but don't forget about the little guys. These bums like Tony Blinken and Jake Sullivan and Lloyd Austin and Rachel Levine who are out. Don't forget that right now, Dr. Fauci, who's about to turn 84, is a little nervous, and he should be, because Dr. Fauci should be number one on the list. If indeed some of these people are going to face a reckoning, some of the people like Christopher Wray, does he still get to take the private jet to his vacation home for Thanksgiving and Christmas? Well, enjoy it, you snake, because those days are over. You are out on your ass, and hopefully the Republican Senate and Republican House will investigate all of them. Hopefully a whole new DOJ, a whole new FBI will prosecute some of these people, because that's what they have coming to them. That's what they deserve. It is time, not for retribution, for a reckoning. I don't think too many of the 77 million people who voted for Trump want to just say, let's let bygones be bygones. You spent 4 years trying to put our guy in prison, trying to bankrupt him, to ruin him. You put everybody in his orbit went to jail. Steve Bannon and Roger Stone and Peter Navarro went to jail. But we're just going to let Dr. Fauci continue on with his $15 million a year security team, speaking at universities and getting adored by liberals who just have their head in the sand. This guy is a scoundrel, and he retired, retired to his, whatever it is, $400,000 a year pension. The guy who's made more money as a federal bureaucrat than anybody in history. He should not go quietly into retirement. He should be called before the Senate, and Rand Paul and Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz should grill his ass over and over again. Because if you're not paying attention, the man who did more destruction, more harm to the American public than anybody in history, Mr. Lockdown, school closing, mask, everything we did that was wrong was directed by Fauci. This snake, this right here, this little snake right here, little Mr. Fauci, little Dr. Fauci. I'm sorry, as Marjorie Taylor Greene calls him, Mr. Fauci, because he's not a real doctor. Anyway, yesterday, Trump made another beautiful announcement. His replacement at NIH will be Jay Bhattacharya. Now, if you don't know who Dr. Bhattacharya is, he's an esteemed epidemiologist and a professor at Stanford. And he was number one on the target list from Fauci and Collins and Birx, these crooks who were on the payroll of Big Pharma, as we know. And he was one of the authors of the Great Barrington Declaration, which was a document that essentially pointed out how lockdowns don't work. And he was a critic of all the measures, all the draconian measures, the masks, the school closings, the social distancing. And he was right. And he was censored. He was smeared. There was an organized effort to ruin the man. He wasn't getting federal grants. He wasn't even allowed to speak on the campus of Stanford. They just shut him down and shut him up. And it's good. It's great that he's now free to speak and tweet. Even better that he is now head of the NIH, Dr. Fauci's former fiefdom. And you've seen him on cable news. He was allowed on cable news. Some places, he was allowed on Newsmax and Fox News. I don't think we saw a lot of him on CNN. Didn't make a lot of appearances with Jake Tapper or Chris Hayes, but he's just a mild-mannered, brilliant man who, in the United States of America, wasn't allowed to speak. And now we know he was right about everything. He was right about everything. But Fauci, that little tyrant, didn't like people like him, smart people who criticized the state, who criticized his mandates. And they literally said he must be stopped. He's now in charge. And I hope, he doesn't sound like a vindictive man. I hope he is. I hope he gets his revenge against the likes of Fauci and Collins, because they tried to ruin him. That's what they did. They tried to destroy him for telling the truth. Fauci was wrong about everything. Let's be honest. Everything. Masks don't work. Social distancing, they just made that up. Lockdowns don't work. Look at the results. Sweden didn't lock down. They had much better results than we did. Bhattacharya made it clear. We must protect the elderly and the vulnerable. You don't lock down second graders to prevent a virus that doesn't affect them. It was a cataclysmic failure, the policy advanced by Fauci. And as we've mentioned many times, he did it for money. They all did it for money. They pushed vaccines for money on babies, on 2-year-olds, for money. That's why they did it. And hopefully Bhattacharya, I hope he's a little bit more, I don't know, vengeful. I hope he's a little more proactive than he sounds like he's going to be. He sounds he's a little too mild-mannered for me. I would have preferred, someone breathing fire, ready to expose these crooks. But here's Bhattacharya explaining to the Trigonometry podcast what they did to him. Just a brief snippet. Go ahead.
So what have actually been the effects of these lockdowns?
I mean, it's heartbreaking, right? So in Europe, there was a modeling study. It was a really interesting model study. Suggests that 100 million people had skipped cancer screening during the pandemic.
100 million.
100 million cancer screenings have been. I shouldn't say people. 100 million cancer screenings had been skipped, and that's going to lead to 1 million people with later stage cancer that should have been picked up. Then that they're going to often will kill them that shouldn't have killed them. So women will die of breast cancer, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4 that should have been picked up at stage 1 from hormonal screening that didn't happen. So that's just one thing. The psychological effects in the U.S., something like 1 in 4 young adults seriously considered suicide in June of 2020. The overhang for like anxiety and depression is enormous. I think that's maybe it's a little less true in Europe and the UK because you guys had Freedom Day earlier. There are like measles cases now, outbreaks in the United States because people skipped basic immunization. Polio has come back. It was on its way out. We were like this close to eradicating polio. In poor countries, it's even worse, right? In I think Uganda, the estimate is that 4.5 million kids, after 2 years of Zoom school, which is ridiculous in a country like Uganda, they never came back to school. That means it's a generation of poor kids in Uganda who will never get an education and will grow up poor. It's just like we fueled inequality in a way that like it's almost unimaginable. And they will lead shorter lives. Even it turns out, like even in rich countries, short interruptions of school has these like long-term negative consequences on the lives of kids because they grow up poorer. One estimate published in JAMA Pediatrics early in the pandemic was that just the spring closures alone will lead to 5.5 million lost life years for American kids. the overhang of these lockdowns in terms of what they've done to our health, our society, the social inequality, the poverty is almost impossible to exaggerate. It is catastrophic and terrible. I don't know for certain all those excess deaths you talked about, Francis, are due to the lockdowns, but I do believe that a substantial fraction must be the long tail of the lockdown harms.
All right, that's just a minute of a guy who was right and you weren't allowed to hear that before Musk bought Twitter. You weren't allowed to hear that see that on Facebook or Instagram. You didn't see that. You didn't hear that on CNN or MSNBC, who were essentially arms of the state and would do as they were told and censor this man, blackball this man. And he's one of many doctors, epidemiologists, experts who weren't allowed to speak because the little tyrant Fauci put out the word. Don't let him speak. Let's get him. Let's ruin him. And he's now the man in charge. What a great choice. What a spectacular choice. Keep it going. I love this. RFK is his boss now. RFK and Jay Bhattacharya together in the place that used to be controlled completely by Fauci. I love this. And I assume we'll get to hear more about the harm. See, I'd given up hope on a real reckoning for the COVID tyrants. Some of the worst governors, Kathy Hochul and Gavin Newsom, and they paid no price for what they did. Gretchen Whitmer, hell, Charlie Baker, one of the worst lockdown people of them all. He got a big job at the NCAA. Nobody paid a price for what they did, the destruction they did to children, to businesses. They ruined thousands of small businesses unnecessarily on orders from Fauci. And they paid no price. Well, Fauci, hopefully, is going to pay a price. Hopefully, Fauci is exposed before he leaves his mortal coil. All right, before we move on, I don't have time for this, but I want to do this because I'm hoping that one other group gets completely discredited, and it would be the Green New Deal nuts. Yes, we now have a president who mocks them, who ridicules them, who's going to drill baby drill on day one. And I've been praying for this day because it is scary, the control these people have right now. It is scary, the kinds of people who are in elected office. This is just an example. This is from Bostonians Against Mayor Wu. Mayor Wu from Boston, who's just a complete left-wing nut job who wants to go to war with Tom Homan to protect illegal alien criminals in her city. She's part of a group called C40 Cities. There's a group of left-wing mayors and politicians, and they have a goal. Here it is. The goal, among other things, reducing private car ownership, cutting meat and dairy consumption by 80%, limiting individuals to 3 new clothing items per year, and reducing air travel significantly. That's a mayor of a small city, a city of 600,000, a little dot on the map, who thinks it's her job to limit how many new shirts you can buy to save the planet. So let's just all agree. We are being governed, at least in blue states, still by absolute lunatics. I mean, this person, no surprise, went to Harvard, where all the dumbest people go. And now she believes she signed on to a group who said they want to limit dairy and meat consumption. By the way, show that graphic. That's the next part of that. The graphic says their goal is to eliminate meat consumption. Eliminate it. They don't want any meat consumption or dairy consumption. That's the goal, to eliminate gas-powered vehicles. That's their goal. And they're still in office. But if she had won, Kamala had won, your president would be on board with this. Now they know this is nonsense. They know this isn't real. They know if you stop people from, shopping at TJ Maxx, you're not going to save the planet. but they don't care. They love the control, the power, and they love the virtue signaling. Watch me. There it is. Your goal is, what do they call it? One of them is the progressive target, which is to get people to limit their meat consumption to 90 kilograms a year, and their ambitious target by 2030. Do I have that right? That's 5 years.
That is correct.
Their goal in 5 years is to eliminate all dairy consumption and to limit you to 25 calories a day. They want to limit the number of calories you can consume. That'd be tough tomorrow, I have to say. And they want to eliminate meat consumption to zero. These are mayors, governors, politicians, and they think this is virtuous. They are virtue signaling. We want to eliminate meat consumption to change the weather. It's the kind of people who are in elected office. And you want to talk about dodging bullets? We didn't just dodge a bullet in 2024. We dodged a bullet in 2012. John Kerry was almost president. Hell, Al Gore was almost president. These are the leaders of this movement. These are the kings of the hypocrites. These are guys. You think Al Gore limits his meat consumption? You think John Kerry limits his use of his SUVs or his yacht or his private jets? John Kerry won't go away. I mean, this guy's still around. He's 80, and he's out there scolding people. I believe this was yesterday. Where else? At Harvard. And this wrinkled old fool is pissed. Why? Because people just won't behave. People continue to eat meat and drive cars to work. Why don't they just take their private jets like Kerry, or take their yachts? They take their Honda Pilots. And if we don't stop them, we're all going to die. Here's another wonderful development. Nobody is listening to this huckster, to this grifter. He's completely irrelevant. And he can't handle it. He does not want to just retire and go away. He wants to keep pushing this nonsense. Listen to this again. I believe this was yesterday, and he's not happy with you because you just won't behave. Go ahead.
So I think personally we're on the brink of needing to declare a climate emergency, which is what we really have. And we need to get people to behave as if this really is a major transitional challenge to the whole planet, to everybody. People in Africa don't have electricity, need to choose the right kinds of electricity. And we need to help them be able to afford it and do it. We are the largest economy in the world, $24 trillion or $23 trillion economy, maybe more by now. The next closest is China at about 18 trillion. And the next closest to the two of us, Germany and Japan at 4 trillion. That's how far it drops down. You don't think we have some sort of obligation out of that to be responsible? I think you do. But I'm just saying our country needs to talk about this. And we need to make it happen because we're paying huge sums of money to make up the difference.
Good. Keep going. He says people have to behave.
That was the end of the clip there.
Behave. You're not behaving. This guy's treating you like a child because you're not behaving. By the way, he didn't mention we're 36 trillion in debt. We have a $24 trillion economy. We're 36 trillion in debt. We're paying over $1 trillion a year in interest. And he wants us to make sure the people in Africa use the right kind of electricity. You know, not the kind of electricity we used to build a thriving modern economy. They have to go with the windmills and the solar panels because that's how you behave, according to this clown. Again, I don't want to be negative, pessimistic today. He's irrelevant now. He no longer has this phony baloney job of czar, whatever he was called, climate czar, with this budget, this secret budget of millions of dollars and a big staff to fly around the world and try to change the weather. He's out. That's a great thing. All these fools. By the way, Al Gore has made something like $300 or $400 million selling this snake oil since he was rejected by the voters. Kerry's doing the same thing, but it's not enough. He wants to be relevant. He wants you to change your behavior. Speaking of someone else who's irrelevant, I hope we got to get to Liz Warren. I know we do her all the time, but Liz, again, she took a big L on November 5th. She's nobody now. And we're going to tell you why. That's a wonderful thing. She is a tyrant. She's a Marxist. And what she was doing quietly during the Biden-Harris administration will give you a chill. She is just the worst. We'll get to that and more, but first.
Excuse me.
All right, small business owners, listen up. If you're tired of losing money to credit card processing fees, we've got something you need to hear. With 24/7 payments, you can eliminate up to 99% of those fees thanks to their fee elimination program. Here's how it works. You pass the processing fees on to customers who pay with credit cards, and in return, you can offer them a discount for paying with cash or debit. It's a simple, effective, and fully compliant way to save thousands every month. Right now, 24/7 Payments is switching over 250 businesses every month to this program, and they can have you set up in less than 24 hours. Call 855-504-0799 today or visit them on the web at 247payments.com. That's the numbers 247payments.com. Are your loved ones aging? Has walking become difficult for your parents, your grandparents? It's tough. I've been there. I know lots of you have been there too. Stairs can often be a challenge for them. It's also a significant risk of falling. Well, Lifeway Mobility, one of the largest providers of accessibility solutions, offers stair lifts, wheelchair ramps, home elevators, transfer aids, and bath safety solutions to improve safety, independence, and quality of life at home. Most of their solutions are made in the USA, and they provide professional installation and service. Gain peace of mind and help loved ones stay safe at home. Schedule a free consultation when you call Lifeway Mobility at 888-780-7923. They have locations across the U.S. with showrooms for you to see and test their products. They're also rated the best stair lift company by the National Council on Aging and by U.S. News, and they have over 6,000 five-star reviews. Call 888-780-7923 or visit lifewaymobility.com for your free consultation. That's 888-780-7923. All right, I'll give you a little bad news. You know what's not going to end January 20th? The propaganda. You know what's not going to change? The fake news. They aren't going nowhere. I mean, they're dying. They're losing audience. They're hemorrhaging viewers. But check this story out from CNBC. I had to read this twice. I didn't think it was real. I thought it was a parody when I saw it on Twitter. This is, again, a story from CNBC, the fakest of fake news. It says, you may not know it by looking at sticker prices in grocery aisles, but Thanksgiving dinner is more affordable than it's been in years. The costs of this year's holiday feast, estimated at $58.08 for a 10-person gathering, or $5.81 a head, dropped 5% since last year, the lowest level since 2021, according to a nationwide survey of grocery prices. I can't even read this without laughing. So CNBC wants you to believe Thanksgiving dinner for 10 costs $58. I thought that meant for one, but it means that they think you can feed your family, your extended family, for $5.80 each. Who believes that?
Turkey's like that price.
I mean, yeah, at least. I mean, you couldn't get everyone there a turkey sub from Subway. That's more than that. They no longer have $5 footlongs. That's a thing of the past. You could order a turkey sub for 10 people, and it's more than $100. And they want you to think you can feed your family of 10 for 58. They type that and hit send like it's real. One other thing before we get to Lizzie, I got to mention this. An update on the Pete Hegseth story. And again, this is going to get big. This is going to get ugly. They're going to come after him. But the Daily Wire has a report yesterday. Tim Parlator, his lawyer, says there's evidence They have exonerating details from about the accuser, Jane Doe, who falsely accused Pete Hegseth of rape. Again, Hegseth was a fool. He went to his room with her. He had a baby at home. He's had 3 wives. He's been very undisciplined in his private life, but I'm hoping he still gets confirmed. According to his lawyer, he's demanding a file from the Monterey County District Attorney that will show exonerating details. The memo the legal team is seeking outlines why the DA decided not to prosecute. It allegedly details an earlier accusation of sexual misconduct made by Hegseth's accuser. All right, this is simple. If this is true, she should be criminally charged. I mean, maybe she should be anyway, but she's done this before. I mean, you read the story, you read the police report, it's obvious. She cheated on her husband who was down the hall. She panicked and she said, she got caught. She panicked and said, he raped me. That's a lie. She should be prosecuted. This woman is a really bad person. This is a scary person. And again, Hegseth should have run from this woman, but he was drunk, he was horny, and he did what he should not have done. But she's falsely accusing him, and according to his lawyer, she's done it before. She's a menace. I hope they call her as a witness in the Senate, and we get to see her and hear from her, because she is the one who should be criminally charged. And you know, the Monterey DA is no fan of Pete Hegseth. She's certainly no fan of, sexual predators. They looked into the case, they had evidence, and they said there was no rape here. But the Democrats, the media, will continue to call Hegseth the rapist. Do I have time for Lizzie? I mean, this is a little long, but I just have to say once again to the country, I'm so sorry. We send the worst people in the world to Congress, to the Senate. We just showed you John Kerry. He's a despicable grifter. We told you about Mayor Wu, Boston mayor. We've certainly told you about Ayanna Pressley, just the worst person in Congress. Liz Warren she's evil. Can I just be honest? She's evil. She is using a obscure federal agency, according to this guy, Mark Andreessen. He's an engineer, an investor, a Silicon Valley big wig. He goes on with Joe Rogan, and he tells a story about what Liz Warren is doing to her political enemies. And it's just astounding. I never heard of this. I've never seen this. I certainly haven't read it in the Boston Globe. But somebody has to do a deep dive on this, because Liz Warren is just a tyrant. I mean, just a bully, just a really, really bad person. And she just won again. She's got 6 more years, and hopefully she's being exposed and won't be able to do this to her enemies. But listen to this guy, Mark Andreessen, with Rogan, explain what she has done to her political enemies. Go ahead.
So, like, for example, we have this thing called the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, CFPB, which was it's sort of Elizabeth Warren's personal agency that she gets to control. And it's an independent agency that just gets to run and do whatever it wants, right? And if you read the Constitution, like, there is no such thing as an independent agency, and yet there it is.
What does her agency do?
Whatever she wants.
What does it do, though?
Basically, terrorize financial institutions, prevent fintech, prevent new competition, new startups that want to compete with the big banks.
Really?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
How so?
Just like terrorizing anybody who tries to do anything new in financial services. And
can you give me an example?
Debanking. This is where a lot of the debanking comes from. Is these agencies. So debanking is when you as either a person or your company are literally kicked out of the banking system.
Like they did to Kanye.
Exactly, like they did to Kanye. My partner Ben's father has been debanked.
Really?
We had an employee
for what?
For having the wrong politics, for saying unacceptable things. Under current banking regulations, here's a great thing. Under current banking regulations, after all the reforms of the last 20 years, there's now a category called a politically exposed person, PEP. And if you are a PEP, you are required by financial regulators to kick them off of to kick them out of your bank. You're not allowed to.
What if you're politically on the left?
Well, that's fine.
No,
because they're not politically exposed.
So no one on the left gets debanked.
No, I have not heard of a single instance of anybody on the left getting debanked.
Can you tell me what the person that you know did? What they said that got them debanked?
Oh well, I mean, David Horowitz is a right wing. He's pro-Trump. I mean, he said all kinds of things. He's been very anti-Islamic terrorism. He's been very worried about migration, all these things.
And they debanked him for that.
Yeah, they debanked it. So you get kicked out of your bank account. You get kicked out of you can't do credit card transactions. By the way, you can't.
How is that legal?
Well, exactly. So this is the thing, and then you go into this thing of like, well, this is where the government and the companies get intertwined. Back to your fascism point, which is there's a constitutional amendment that says the government can't restrict your speech, but there's no constitutional amendment that says the government can't debank you, right? And so if they can't do the one thing, they do the other thing, and then they don't have to debank you. They just have to put pressure on the private company banks to do it, and then the private company banks do it because they're expected to, but the government gets to say we didn't do it.
That is unbelievable. That is what Liz Warren, my senior senator, is doing to people she doesn't like. PEPs. What is it? Politically individuals, politically whatever, objectionable individuals, her political enemies. She pressures banks to debank them. They can't have a checking account, a savings account, and they can't have credit cards. David Horowitz is a prominent right-wing author. He's written a bunch of books. He's good. He's a very outspoken critic of, as he said, of the Biden administration, of immigration, of Islamic terror. And for that, Liz Warren uses her position in the Senate to pressure the banks to debank the man. And that's happening now. God, I'm praying that ends on January 20th. I hope that exposure she just got right there on Rogan is, I hope people advance that and she gets exposed and this ends on January 20th. It is just sad that people right here in my neighborhood voted for that woman, that awful, evil woman. Jesus, that's how she uses her power to debank American citizens with whom she disagrees. I should end on a positive note. Thank God that hopefully that ends January 20th. 54 days. 54. Ironhead, Teddy Bruschi, Randy White.
Urlacher.
Oh, the best one of all, Brian Urlacher. I love Urlacher. He was a safety in college. You know that? He was
That's a big safety.
That is, but he was that fast. He was great. He was great. But all right, we will leave it there on this Thanksgiving Eve. Have a great, don't be afraid to gloat. Don't be afraid to wear your Trump hat to Thanksgiving dinner. Why? I mean, it's fun. Mixing up a little drunk debate. Nothing wrong with that. Keep your composure and enjoy. We dodged a bullet, a big bullet this time. And we should all be very, very thankful. And hey, I'm thankful for everybody who listens, who watches, everybody on Free Speech Rumble, on Twitter, on Apple, on Spotify. Don't forget to subscribe. We really appreciate it. And we appreciate your support. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I'm Gerry Callahan. This is the Callahan Show. Thanks, Ironhead. We will do it again Monday morning.
Thank you.
Oh my God. Is she crazy?
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you so very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Oh, too many.